It is This Whole Life, and it is another Storytellers episode. We are really blessed to have again with us Paul and Rachel Balducci. Paul and Rachel, good to have you back. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
You may have heard the full episode with Paul and Rachel earlier, where we talked about the masculine genius and raising boys. And if you have not heard that, listen to this first, and you will know exactly why you need to go back and listen to the full episode with the two of them. The two of you brought so much wisdom and joy about parenting and family life. I'm curious if you've got a story you could bring about something in the course of parenting that was really difficult and even really brought some suffering at the time, but has turned out to be even maybe a blessing in retrospect. Anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, I do have an idea. And Rachel will appreciate this. Our oldest son, Ethan, was a shining star as a young man. He was altar server, Eagle Scout, class president of his high school class, just never gave us a moment difficulty, was good at everything he touched. Great athlete, artistic, played music, just a wonderful young man.
Wow.
And he got into the school he wanted to go to, Georgia Tech University in Atlanta, Georgia, to go be an architect. And so off we drop off our little guppy in the ocean. It was very distressing to leave him on that campus, but we did that. And he was there for 2 semesters. And he did pretty well his first semester, but at some point he pretty much did everything I told him not to do. He, and I don't think he would mind me sharing this story, but he joined a fraternity, which I thought I had hopes it could be something good. And his life went off the tracks big time.
Hmm.
He got into doing drugs, had a girlfriend, got in his fraternity. He was struggling. He was struggling mightily, and we didn't know it at all.
Sure.
Fortunately, we had some of his friends from back home in Augusta knew about his struggles, and were able to. They shared that with someone else, a friend of mine, an adult male, that said, "I've got something difficult to share with you about your boy."
Hmm.
And so he told me what my son was going through, and I had been going periodically to visit my son in Atlanta. Sometimes work would take me there, and I'd pop in just to say hello, give him a hug, and I wasn't aware of the struggle he had. And so now I've got this news about how difficult his circumstances are, how he's gone way off track. And so I just said, "Son, tell me what's going on." And he broke down.
Yeah.
And he had another semester, was already paid for, he had a scholarship. And I said, "Son, I don't know what you want to do. You said you're having a hard time. This is like near Christmas time." I said, I asked him, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "I want to come home." I said, "You've got another semester, like it's all," he goes, "I want to come home." And he came home, and Rachel was, it was very, you can imagine, it was hard for me, but for a mom to see her little boy who she cared for suffering so much.
Yeah.
And for the next year, he was at our home, and he tried to enroll at our local university, and he had some stops and starts there. It was very difficult. And so we walked through a lot of pain and suffering and watching our boy struggle, who had, again, been this shining star. You think, how could he ever have these problems, right?
Yeah.
And he went off track completely. And then, again, a few years, it took some time. It wasn't overnight, but the Lord began to heal him. And he was able to move out of our house. He moved into a house with some friends. He had some really good friends. And he was, over a period of time, he just became healed. And we were able to work with him. We had a very good relationship with him, but he was broken. It was very hard to watch. And so I guess he's doing fantastic now. He's graduated college. He's got a good job. He's got a wonderful girlfriend. He's very active. He has a very active faith life. He still loves to play music. He plays praise and worship music. He plays all kinds of music. But the Lord did something beautiful in his life, and we had to walk through that with him. And we had the benefit of the grace of God, his own friends that cared about him, our friends that cared enough about us to be able to share this with us.
Yeah.
And then just our relationship with our boy, just being able to deepen. And he would share these same things about how he sees how the Lord worked through him. He learned so much through this very difficult circumstance. He's had to endure real hardship, and he's had to experience how much he needs Jesus in his life.
Sure.
It's not come easy to him. He had to suffer and go through some hardship. and really in a place where he had to turn to the Lord and receive the mercy of God and God's love. Just he received that in a way that maybe he wouldn't have had he not gone through those hard times. So that's, I guess that's my story about my boy.
Yeah. Rachel, what was your perspective on that as a mom? You were kind of nodding along as Paul was talking there.
It was the worst.
Oh.
It was such a terrible time. And it was all of those things. It was like the death of a dream. It was this feeling of like, when your boys are little and it's chaos and then you start to survive. And I really thought we had, it's funny to look back now, like 10 years later, 11, that we really had been the first parents since Jesus's time to raise a perfect child.
We did it.
I really like the day Ethan graduated high school, he gave the speech. He won the big award for like the most Christian student, and I didn't even think I was prideful so much as like, this was all affirmation that we were doing a good job,
Yeah.
And then for him again to do that, like how scary it was to watch him be like, I remember picking him up at the end of the first semester and barely recognizing him. And, and as time went on, it was like still not kind of connecting the dots, but, and we're still learning how to like, how much of this is on his terms and finally realizing, oh no, like parenting doesn't end at 18. It's just the approach is different. But like, you can't, like, I think I felt a lot of stress too when Ethan graduated high school, because I was like, okay, that we're done parenting him. And now we just watch him go. And it's like, oh man, it's just getting started. But it's like the relationship that you've built with them is going to get put to the test in good ways, So yeah, it was a painful time and the Lord was faithful. And circling back to the dog though, we had just gotten a dog and we would walk and I would talk and talk and talk. And I finally said to Paul one day, I feel like I'm going to live with my fists and clenched until Ethan's either a priest or, whatever. And that's when Paul said, is it harvest time? And this was true with so many other situations. So God is faithful. And not to sugarcoat it. There are some seasons that are just like, it's just hard, and you're not even like, I feel the Lord's hand in this. No, it's like, I feel abandoned right now, and just putting one foot in front of the other, being unified with your spouse, and thanking the Lord for his faithfulness.
Yeah. Oh,
beautiful.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much, guys. What a great story. And just for anyone who is going through a difficult time and they can't understand where the Lord is in it right now, those constant reminders of like, in retrospect, it is often, maybe not always, but often easier to see what God was doing all along and to even be grateful for the difficulty that you had to endure. That's a great reminder. So thanks so much for sharing that. And thanks so much for sharing so much with our listeners. God bless you guys.